Hiya, and welcome back to Far Beyond the World. The game that teaches us that I don't know. It's been a while. Almost 2 years. I'm not trying to throw shade. But it has been a while. Anyways, let's just hop right in. Chapter 14. As we wait to retrieve our paperwork, faint voices echo over the marbled staircase, growing louder and louder with each step and finally drawing our collective attention. Hang on, I'm gonna check something. Okay, there is no block NSFW. Damn. It seems to be a heated exchange, with the magistrate's bellowing tone trumping over a much fainter voice of a younger male. Even the secretary stops her task and logs her expectant gaze at the stairs. I don't need a young upstart like you telling me how to do my job. You might be working for the great Arcanist, but I'm still the Magistrate. There's only NSFW at the end of the update. Fuck. Okay. I'm only here to observe. I don't need a babysitter either, especially not one young enough to be my grandson. Okay, Boomer. Those incursions have drawn the attention of the king. The situation is serious. You don't have to tell me that. We are hundreds of miles away from the coast. Unless these marauders are sprouting from the ground like daisies. You should investigate the idiots in charge of White Gulch or Freyfall. This is not an investigation. Just a friendly offer of fresh This is an insult, that's what this is! I've been in charge of this region for nearly 2 decades now. I have the wolves under control. Tyranny is no threat to us. We both know that's not exactly true. Perfect timing, the very person I wanted to see. As they clear the last bend of the stairs, the magistrate clasps his hands at my sight. He rushes down the steps heading towards me, leaving the hooded male behind. His companion is clearly a tiger, wearing odd yet formal-looking blue robes. Before the stranger can pique my curiosity further, the older male is already on me, shaking my hand. Bitch! If Grandpa gets to yell at strangers, why can't I yell at strangers? I call everyone bitch. I thought we knew that. I call everyone bitch. But if Grandpa gets to yell at strangers, why can't I yell at strangers? I want to yell at strangers. Master Kalen, was it? I'm so glad to have caught you. We're having a rather ad hoc soiree, and I would be delighted even, if you'd join us. We were just collecting those. I point absent-mindedly to the secretary who hoards our folded letters of free trade, but the magistrate simply swishes his paw at her. Put those away. They won't be needing them anytime soon. We need to leave. Rannoch mutters sternly, looking to me in slight confusion. Nonsense. It's already 11th hour. Who would want to travel at nightfall? Much better for you to leave in the morning. Because he's spitting facts and he's wiser. Yeah, well, Magistrate, you know what that sounds like? Hang on.
It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water.
I don't know where I was going with that.
It's time to drink water.
Much better for you to leave in the morning. The old man smiles awkwardly as the stranger finally arrives at his side on the account of a rather slow and almost theatrical pace. I look to him with curiosity. I can't make out his facial features over the shadow of his hood. One thing stands out from the darkness, his gleaming ice-cold eyes. Allow me to introduce Lord Kane Snowpaw. He arrived shortly after our meeting. And ever since, all I keep hearing is the story of a wolf and a human who arrived unannounced from the depths of fabled Turnin. The stranger utters in a husky but pleasant voice, removing his hood. Kane is a royal mage. He's here on urgent business, apparently. Well, they don't need to know that. I would never insult my guest's intelligence. I think they could piece that together on their own. Crown agents rarely end up in these parts without good reason. Kane concedes with a reluctant nod, while Rannoch gives him a rather inquisitive look. You... Mage... Indeed. I take it you haven't seen many in your lifetime. None. There's a slight note of hostility in Rannoch's voice, and considering his people's history with mages, I decide to divert the tone of the conversation to something more lighthearted, yet equally pressing, for me at least. I'm sorry if this might seem a bit forward or impertinent, but I've never seen any real magic. Could you perhaps make a demonstration? The tiger guesses, and I nod with a weak smile. With just a flick of his wrist, he conjures a small icicle suspended above his palm. Oh my god, he's a waterbender! He's a waterbender! Oh, hi, welcome. This fucker's a waterbender. Can I borrow your waterbending, please? I need to do some waterbending. Ice bending is a form of waterbending. Sir Kane Snowpaw's hot AF. Here's the thing. Ice bending is a form of waterbending. However, you know what else is a form of waterbending? Bloodbending. Let me just... Hang on. I'm gonna beatbox it because I don't want to play. Just... With just a flick of his wrist, he conjures a small icicle suspended above his palm. I even feel a gentle breeze brush under my skin as he does so. Does that sate your curiosity? That's so cool! Backbending. Obviously, as much as I hate to admit it, Amicus is the ultimate backbender. Can we eat it, though? Oh. Just kidding. My excitement and awe can be hardly contained, despite the implied triviality of the trick. I cannot help but bop in glee as the tiger passes the icicle to me and I hold it up to Rannoch. Although I'm very much taken and impressed, the wolf has a somewhat troubled expression, looking at the ice as if it were a blade, and I decide not to push his comfort zone too much. Instead, I grasp the frozen trinket inside my palm, chuckling as it slowly begins to melt away, tickling my skin. Yeah, Damien did. We stan him. I've never thought ice magic was a thing, I utter under my breath. Well, technically speaking, it's more air magic. So you're an airbender? Can I borrow your airbending to airbend... I don't know. Can I borrow your airbending to airbend the air out of Aldris's lungs, please? Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it. What do you mean? An inquisitive soul, I see. Well, it's quite simple, if you understand basic physics. Kind of. I use the flow of arcane to draw and flash freeze water particles in the surrounding air by expanding it. So... the Force. Fucker has the Force. This trick would have been mighty hard to perform in a more arid place like Kemet. No moisture, no ice. Explains why they all breathe fire down south. The magistrate pipes in and notice Kane roll his eyes in minor amusement. Either way, enough of parlor tricks. We have food and the entertainment should be here shortly. I had someone fetch minstrels from the bard. I very much insist you join us in the stateroom. Your offer is very kind, Your Excellency. PK Thunder. I stumble, trying to find a proper way of address. But we really should be on our way. Besides, we've barely been able to find accommodation last night. As it happens, a group of Vanar envoys arrived shortly after our meeting, and ever since I couldn't stop thinking of our earlier exchange. He says in a kind tone, slipping his arm around me and slowly guiding us towards the archway. You've said you've lost your memory and that Lord Rannoch here tries to help you get home. That's right. Well, meeting your own kin is the best chance that you'll get. As for accommodation, this shan't be a problem. Normally I wouldn't do this. However, considering the sudden surge of arrivals, I've decided to host them all here. We have a few spare chambers just for such occasions. The magistrate nods eagerly, but I pull myself out of his embrace. I've naysayed Rannoch one time too many in the last few days. That's very generous and kind, but I wouldn't frown upon such an offer, child. Bitch! The old male says in a slightly harsher tone, shaking his finger at me. You know what? You know what? You know what? No, no. You shake one finger at me, I shake two back at you. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. Not many can boast that they were hosted in the Magistrate's palace. Not everyone wants to be hosted in the Magistrate's palace. And as I said, if you want to get an inkling of an idea about your origins, this slot here is the best clue you can follow upon. He spreads his arm towards the adjacent hall and I frown. They're well-traveled and quite prominent in the Vanaheimer society. They would recognize if you were one of their own. Perhaps you even traveled with one of their forward parties. This might not be a matter for me to involve myself in, but I'd listen to His Excellency. The Excellent One is right. We should stay. Not much delay. Rannoch shrugs, clearly intrigued by the proposition, judging by his perked-up ears, and thus my main point of contention melts away. See, even your Wolven Guardian agrees, so let me take you through. He insists, and I finally relent, allowing him to walk me to the marbled arch on the receptionist's right flank. As we enter the adjacent chamber, I nearly gasp in amazement. The sprawling stair room greets me with a beautifully set-up table, buckling under the weight of elaborate crockery, and numerous exquisite dishes. Even the side cupboards seem to strain under the weight of additional food and drink. The glass bottles reflect the setting sun seeping in from the windows and glimmer with different shades of reds and greens. The light show casted onto the wooden ceiling is enough to take my breath away, especially when paired with the crystal chalices dazzling the walls in speckled rainbows. Everything shimmers here with opulence and extravagance, and I feel almost out of place. I can count 5 elegantly dressed tigers seated comfortably at different ends of the large table. They take notice of our arrival, raising to their feet. Finally, Your Excellency. We thought you meant to starve us to death. A middle-aged tigress approaches us, giving a shallow curtsy which offers me a prime view of her rather deep neckline. The dress she wears might be chic, but it's also quite revealing. The idea of a banquet, Lady Wrist, is that one helps themselves to whatever, whenever. Oh, I'm afraid I'm not that loose with my manners, Your Excellency. I would never dare to eat before my host has arrived. But what's this? More guests? Indeed. The magistrate nods, gesturing towards us with an open paw. Allow me to introduce Lord Rannoch of Turnen, his companion, Master Kalen, also of Turnen. And the Royal Mage is here. Here is Lord Kane Snowpaw. Dear me, one would think we're having a war council. First human envoys, now a wolven delegate, followed up by a royal mage. And you said that my visit in the sticks would prove boring. She leans in the direction of one of the guests seated at the far end of the room. That was over 3 months ago, my dear. Things have changed. The male responds, looking impatiently to a rather giggly tigress on his right. She also seems middle-aged, and by their interactions, I infer they are an old couple. Is this charming little fellow another one of York's party? Lady Wrist focuses on me, clearly noticing me eyeing out the gathered. No, they are, as of the moment, unaffiliated. Unaffiliated? What a funny way of putting it. She gives the magistrate an inquisitive gaze, but the man just brushes it off. Well, I'll leave this for the humans to figure out. In the meantime, I suggest we begin the feast. I've worked up an appetite quibbling with this sharp tool. Based on that expression, I only have one question. Were you sickling his pickle? Were you giving him the gulk 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 3000? Oh, do tell. No, another time perhaps. Let us not bore our guests with politics. He shakes his head and looks towards one of the servants standing at the side of the room. Portia, where's the other party? They went to see the gardens, Your Excellency. The young doe bobs respectfully. Would you please be so kind and fetch them? Of course, Your Excellency. I watch as she rushes to a sizable carved door and struggle to crack it open. For a moment, I catch a glimpse of the bright greenery outside, and I'm quite curious to see it myself. But my attention is quickly returned to the gathered as the mage speaks up. I'm sorry if I come across as rude, but I'm afraid we're not familiar with one another. He says in an oddly accusatory tone to the elegant female, and she blinks in confusion. Should we be? She looks to the magistrate for aid. I'd say you're more uninformed than rude. The older male scoffs, swaying his paw gently towards the noble tigress. This is Lady Wrist. She is visiting us from the faraway Mog Bay, which Tigeron's half is governed by her husband. I wasn't aware of that. Clearly. The magistrate narrows his eyes, but the young tiger continues his prodding. That is quite the journey, Your Ladyship. What brings you to these remote lands? Personal matters. I'm the guiding light to the Count Coste's daughter. Her enlightenment is approaching, and thus my presence is required. I'm only stopping here for a short visit with my dear friends, Lord Mayor and his wife. She nods her head towards the giggly tigress and her less than amused companion. Feels rather cruel to single me out like that. The magistrate grumbles playfully, and the female smiles, placing upon his shoulder. I beg your pardon, Your Excellency. As gracious a host as you've proven yourself to be. We've barely met. Oh, hi, welcome. I'm certain that by the end of my visit, this little oversight shall be amended. I should hope so. He mutters, continuing to feign ignorance. I almost said ignorance. He mutters, continuing to feign offense and leading us towards the table. Once he arrives at his seat, our party stops, with Rannoch, Kane, and me pondering which of the empty chairs we should take. How exactly are you and Lord Mayor acquainted? The mage almost demands, and I blink. The capital, perhaps? We were childhood friends, dearest. We grew up together at the Sundacon's palace. Lady Wrist responds nonchalantly. Shortly after dear Claudius entered the Grammaticon, I was sent to the capital. We were reunited within a few years of the academy, two brash teenagers. The mischief we got up to. The extravagant tiger giggles, and for the first time I realize how well matched he is with his wife. The stuff of legends. My. Should I feel jealous? Why, from what I've gathered, darling, you lacked no adventure. Her words sound more like a jab than a compliment, but the poor tipsy female doesn't seem to notice and simply laughs it off. That is so. Wish we met back then. It would have been the end of the world as we know it. Lady Wrist muses theatrical, feathering out her fingers, causing the oblivious female to blink in confusion. What? Why? With you, dear, the party never ends. How would either of us find the time to get hitched and settle down? True, being married to my big sugar plum has its perks. Her giggle resonates slightly louder than appropriate as she reaches for another serving of wine. That's when the magistrate grumbles, fluttering his whiskers. Everything is as it should be. Always. I should be very distraught had we never met Atia. My days would be filled with doom and gloom. Ah. Your Excellency is such a kind soul. That's when another noble speaks up, looking intently in Lady Wrist's direction. You mentioned Count Koste. How is he? His sudden departure from the capital became quite the talking point. Apparently his fortunes took a dip, in more than just a figurative way. Minor court drama, I assure you. I wouldn't pay mind to idle gossip. Court gossip is what I'm interested in the most. Kane throws in, but is met with a rather dimming look from the tigress. Then you lead a boring life, dear. I would find myself a hobby, had I been in your paws. The giggly female bursts into laughter at the quip, but finally simmers down, taking a dignified sip from her cup. I remember my own stay at court. It's been a much shorter affair, of course. As I recall, you're almost a resident there. How long have you stayed at the palace? Far too long, darling, but I can't complain. She shrugs, idly picking out a bowl of grapes and swallowing one. I stayed at the Pink with Dowager. She removed herself from the court life on her own accord, and who could blame her? Ever since the passing of Elena, the palace is not the same. Not the same at all. It's as if all the softness was sucked out of it. Needless to say, I was glad to be home. Many share your sentiment, Lady Wrist. I find court with all its meddlesome nobles quite disruptive to the governance of the realms. I'm sure you would, as a magic-wielding bureaucrat. Her tone takes a dip, and she doesn't hide the hint of venom on it. But Tigron isn't just bureaucrats and mages, my dear boy. First and foremost, it is its people. We, the nobles, are far greater safeguards of their well-being than any academy-trained upstart could ever be. But you yourself have been trained at the academy, if I'm not mistaken, judging by your eyes. Only now do I notice the purple of her irises as he seemed to gleam with soft light. That is no secret of mine. I've been sent there at the command of my father once my talents made themselves known, as so many other younglings were. Academy is seen as a ticket to the better life. And was it? For the uncurious and unremarkable ones, yes! She shrugs, causing King to narrow his brows in clear offense. To me, however, it seemed like a glorified dormitory in the shadow of the royal residence where one learns parlor tricks to entertain the upper classes. But you are a wrist. Who would you be entertaining? Exactly. The female nods, picking up yet another grape and toying with it. Now you can imagine the futility of it all. I have found that magic is just an empowerment of the small-willed and narrow-minded. It's a means for tiny people to feel bigger than they actually are and rise above their rightful station through unnatural advantage. She says, swallowing the fruit with satisfaction, but her triumph is quickly dimmed by the magistrate's concerned voice. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that statement, especially considering our liege. Oh, don't get me wrong, Your Excellency. The Sorcerer King is a different matter entirely. He commands the dragon soul. He's the embodiment of arcane, and he was born to lead. She quickly corrects herself. But not everyone is a natural spell weaver. Most of the academy-trained sycophants are just that. Mindless minions whose only consolatory prize for their lack of talents is a meaningless administrative post. No offense. She snickers to Kane, but her taunting smile is only met with a cold nod from the mage. It's not my offense you need to worry about, your ladyship. After all, you're still one of those academy-trained sycophants, just without the post. Perhaps. The female shrugs, and I look worriedly at their tense exchange. It almost feels like Kane is testing her patience. Or maybe he's simply standing his ground. Either way, Lady Riss doesn't take kindly to it. But being a lady of my own land, bearing responsibility for my own people, my paws remain full all the same. Flinging ice and fire at the enemy is not what I envisioned for myself. Battle mages, the whole lot of them. Precisely. She nods towards the other female. I'm not interested in battle any more than I am in magic. I'm concerned with improving the quality of life of my subjects. My powers won't help bolster the economy or build a better future for them. It's a crutch people with few inner resources lean on to. I assure you, there's more to a royal mage than flinging ice or fire. Is there? She poses a question only to flick her muzzle in our direction. Ask Lord Brannock how your predecessors improved lives in Turnin. Almost a century has passed, and wolves still reel from that improvement. It wasn't exactly like that. We both know that the wolves would not stop until I tire of this exchange. Lady Wrist finally releases an exasperated sigh. Your Excellency, must I really suffer an inquest into my personal affairs, connections, and beliefs at your dinner table? Not at all, dear lady. The old male frowns and faces the mage with a stern look. Lord Kane, I think you're overstepping your bounds. You're here to hang over my shoulder, not over those of my guests. I didn't... Ugh. Forgive me, Your Excellency. Now, let us get settled. The magistrate pats the backrest of his chair impatiently. There's plenty of room, and I've instructed the kitchen to keep the food coming until we pass out. Over here, darling. I'd love to have you two just myself. Lady Risk takes a seat to the magistrate's left side, waving at us and pointing to the empty chairs beside her, but the magistrate shakes his head. Don't be greedy, dear lady. There's plenty of efficiency. I want you to entertain the Jarl. It's not the human I'm after, but the wolf, dearest. We don't have those in the bay. Perhaps I shall prove a fitting companion. Kane proposes, but the female frowns as if she bit on a lemon. Somehow I doubt it. You, royal errand boys, are spoil sports, a lot of you. You can sit beside me. One errand boy to another. Finally, the last guest, seated at the magistrate's right side, speaks up, pointing to a chair beside him. He's a young tiger, very much Kane's own age, clad in intricate armor and speaking with good humor in his voice. Kane smiles and nods in gratitude, looking back to us. Master Kalen, Lord Rannoch, there are 2 seats right beside. He indicates the chairs next to him, and I nearly leap at the offer. Unwelcome outsiders should stick together. I mutter to Rannoch in a hushed tone, and the wolf scoffs. Doesn't seem like you're that unwelcome here. Where are my manners? Our host pokes himself in the forehead and places his paw on the arm of the youth beside him. This is my son, Arathon. He's a Lord Commander of our city watch. He says in a proud fatherly tone. On the other side of the table are the esteemed Lord Mayor Claudius and his ever-beautiful wife, Atia. The bubbly female squeals like a schoolgirl and shakes her finger teasingly. Your Excellency is such a flatterer. I only speak the truth, my lady. Now it is I who feels rather cruelly singled out. Lady Wrist mutters in a feigned offense, taking a shallow sip of wine. Forgive me, my lady, I'm just blinded and starstruck. With both of you in the room, it's like sitting amongst constellations. Dear me, Your Excellency certainly knows how to make a female feel appreciated. The magistrate takes a gentle bow and returns to face us, pointing to the last stranger at the table. And finally allow me to introduce Lord Graki. He's a personal friend and a confidant of mine. You're doing me a kindness, Your Excellency. Now, with formalities out of the way, let us fill our bellies! The old tiger rubs his paws excitedly, but I find myself unable to break gaze from the extravagant male. The lavish fabric he wears, his eyes adorned like a tail feather of an exotic bird. It's almost too much. Oh dear, the young master is staring at me. The Lord Mayor says, his eyes twinkling mischievously, I bet it's my striking makeup that caught him by surprise. He almost purrs, evidently thrilled at the thought, and I stammer. Well, Can you blame him? I myself am spellbound. Lady Wrist interjects, her brows narrowing in slight amusement, which tugs at the mayor's attention like a magnet. It's a new fad that has swept the capital. He boasts, running his paw through his lush mane. Males of higher status need to look the part. Indigo with ground quartz, that is. To add some sparkle into the eyes. Okay, I'm gonna change his fucking voice. Males of higher status need to look the part. Indigo with ground quartz, this is, to add some sparkle into the eyes. No, it doesn't fit. I hate that both kind of fit him. I hate that both of those kind of fit him. Which one for Lord Mayor? Gay voice or old man voice? Wait. Gay old man voice. Males of a higher status need to look the part. Indigo with ground quartz this is. Tread some sparkle into the eyes. Gay old man. That's what we're gonna do. Gay old man. You look ravishing, darling. His wife cuts in, her paw affectionately patting his, and their noses meet for near nuzzle. A tender moment of spousal support. Thank you, dearest. Thank you, dearest. Lord Mayor responds, his gaze softening for a fraction of a second. I'm not giving him the gay voice. I'm gonna give him the old voice. Another madness. His Excellency grumbles, shifting uncomfortably in his ornate chair. Oh, hi, welcome. Thank you for the raid. Thank you. It won't last a year, mark my words. You said the same thing about the bold new patterns, and yet, here we are. Lord Mayor splays his paws, eliciting a snort from his friend, who takes a short sip of wine before retorting. And here we are indeed. You look just as ridiculous now as you did then. I almost confused you for a tapestry once. I snort at the comment and continue to watch their exchange with growing intrigue. They seem playful enough, but there's an undeniable tension beneath the surface. But before the conversation devolves into a battlefield, the chirpy Lord Mayor splays his paws in surrender and chuckles. The difference between poor Ambister and moi, he muses, pulling himself up in the chair, is that he lacks taste, while I have an abundance of it. His Excellency finishes for him as his eyes lock in a mischievous showdown. You're not short on confidence either. You didn't complain when I had my tailor bedazzle your drab old coat. The mayor flashes his brows, causing his friend to clear his throat in a momentary fluster. Yes, well, one must keep up with the times, too. I, too, must look the part. You look distinguished, your Excellency, Lady Wrist affirms, her tone tinged with unmistakable warmth. You remind me of our liege, a spitting image of sternness and austerity. Lord Mayor shoots back, prompting Kane to nearly choke on his drink at the remark, while Lady Wrist replies coolly. How witty you are, Claudius, but would you really say that to our liege's muzzle? I have, on multiple occasions. The extravagant male flashes his brows, only to frown impishly. Alas, to no avail, he's stubborn as always. Without Elena's guiding paw, I fear Tygon is hopelessly ill-equipped for the world of fashion and trend. The mayor's wife chimes in. Or perhaps his priorities lie elsewhere. I recall a term coined at court for nobles who dabble in excess. What was it? Lady Wrist pokes her chin playfully, allowing the magistrate to contribute. Frou-frou fanfarons? That's it. She bops her finger with satisfaction. Thank you, your Excellency. No trouble at all. Our host responds humorously. Especially when our dear friend serves as a daily reminder. I might be frou-frou. Lord Mayor drawls, leaning back in his chair and locking challenging gaze with his counterpart.
Hey, I've seen this chapter before. Well, at least in a leaked Russian
But I
version
am
of
no fanfaron. Ah, yes. The magistrate chuckles. Modesty becomes you with every passing day. They all share a curt laugh, but the mirth quickly evaporates when our host fixes his eyes on the ornate diadems that adorn the heads of Lord Mayor and his wife, each an intricately crafted piece sparkling with gems that seem to capture and imprison the candlelight. What's with the tiaras anyway? He asks the flamboyant male, his brow creased with doubt. At first I thought it was for some occasion that I wasn't aware of, but you two have been wearing those for a whole week now. Lady Wrist, never one to pass up an opportunity for intrigue, leans forward, her eyes glowing with curiosity. I was about to pose the same question, but thought it rude to ask. Lord Mayor, however, looks as though he was waiting for this very moment and shrugs theatrically. It's a Sunakan's initiative, restoring the traditional insignia of high-ranking officials. I had these pulled out from the treasury, I hope you don't mind. Sunakan? Ha! His Excellency snorts, voice heavy with contempt. He's a perfumed ponce. I've never seen a more vain tiger walk this earth. He might as well have been born a lion. I wouldn't take cues for him if I were you. Lord Mayor's humor abates for a moment, and his mouth opens as if to defend his choices. But then he seems to have changed his mind, and a cheeky smile reappears on his muzzle. Sends a good signal, does it not? He retorts, eliciting an amused chuckle from our host. What it signals is your growing detachment from reality, dear friend. It's as though we're moving back in time. He laughs, at which Lady Wrist can't help but join in, her voice dripping with faux concern. Don't those heavy pieces trouble your necks, darlings? Must be murder wearing that much gold. But the mayor waves her comment away as though it were an errant fly. Oh, Pish, it's not that heavy, it only looks so. These are very thin sheets, mind you. Wait, is he blushing? I don't know. Lady Wrist raises her eyebrows, the corners of her mouth curling upward ever so slightly. Well, as long as they're thin, I guess that makes it all right. She responds, her voice laced with enough sarcasm to cut glass. How about we redirect our attention to the meal at Pa? So far, I've been chewing only on these grapes. Lord Mayor's wife shakes her goblet, sloshing the deep scarlet within to everyone's amusement. Their joint laughter fills the air, yet an odd weight settles over me, one I can't easily shake off. Beneath the veneer of banter and cosmetic trends, I sense subtle tests of power and shifting allegiances. It's as if every word and action were calculated moves in a high-stakes game I'm only beginning to understand. A game where diadems and clothing weren't mere adornments but statements, one that could win favor or just as easily alienate your allies. My only hope is that I'm dressed for the occasion. Trying to banish my worries, I decide to follow the bubbly female's advice and focus on the beautifully set table. The food is piled high in front of us and tempts with both the smell and presentation. Everyone seems to be helping themselves to whatever, and we exchange confused looks with Rannoch. I'm completely lost at what to start with, but that's when Kane leans in, almost as if reading our mind. I would start with the Tolmades. They're quite tasty. And they would be over here. He points to a plate stacked with small green parcels. Those are savory ones, beef, buckwheat, and onions wrapped in a vine leaf. The tiger then nods towards a plate of similar green parcels covered in white sauce. Over there you have the sweet ones. Usually it's goat's cheese with honey and chopped nuts, drizzled with sweet yogurt. Oh my. Wolf don't eat leaf. Oh, come off it. It's not like I haven't seen you eat your greens. I chuckle, elbowing him teasingly and placing a savory roll on each on our plates. Not a sweet tooth, I see. On the contrary, I'm just used to eating dessert after dinner. And quite right. The mage nods his head merrily in agreement and feigns a toast. Noticing our glasses are empty, he quickly grabs a bottle and fills them up. We bob our cups merrily and take a sip while I'm eyeing out the dish in front of me. Rannoch is exaggeratedly reluctant, toying with the plate and sniffing at it as if to make sure it's not poison. I, on the other hand, display a much greater trust in our host and follow the spirit of adventure, taking half of the parcel in one bite. The filling crumbles apart in my mouth like a well-cooked pie stuffing, while the leaf provides both tang and texture. It's an experience, that's for sure, but I don't think I would go for seconds just yet. It feels dry, almost as if missing sauce. That's when I notice Kane wash it down with wine. Having one more bite, I try this approach, and to my surprise, it works. I forgot to ask, what drinks do you prefer, my friends? Ale. Rannoch responds almost immediately, drawing a frown from the magistrate's muzzle. I'm not sure what he's complaining about. The wine is lovely. I'm afraid we don't have it in the palace. But I know wolves are fond of their moonshine. We do have some high-quality vodka that could be to your taste. Yes, I think that would be fine. I nod, looking to the wolf with a weak smile. Spirits are something both of us are used to by now. The magistrate waves a paw towards the remaining 3 servants who stand to attention in the corners of the room. They quickly rush towards the cupboards to pick up various bottles and diligently begin to fill up small crystal shot glasses. I smile at the familiarity of the vessel. I think I've done at least a few shots in my previous life, although with whom and the occasion for it eludes me. One thing's for sure, I've never been in a company such as this. Once everyone has their glasses in paw, the magistrate grabs his and stands up, initiating a toast. Following other guests, we take hold of ours and stand up as well. Very well then, to good health! The magistrate proclaims, raising his glass, and we all oblige.
It's time to drink water.
To good health. I'm not shouting.
It's time to drink water.
I blink in surprise at how smoothly the vodka
It's time
washes
to
down my
drink
throat.
water.
It's almost like spicy water,
It's
very
time
little
to drink
bitterness or
water.
burning, just a bit of a bite. I look to Rannoch with a smile, who equally amazed inspects the glass. Oh, that is marvelous, Your Excellency. Utterly delightful. Lady Wrist voices our thoughts. Is it local? Oh no, our locals couldn't distill a good spirit to save their lives. Brewmasters and ale makers, the whole lot of them. The magistrate draws a bout of laughter from the gathered. I'm importing this directly from Amaron. The magistrate there is an old friend of mine, and he never fails to lift my spirits each season. Literally? I shall look into importing it myself, then. My husband would very much enjoy this. Hold up. What was that one character's name? Donovan. Yeah. Is her husband's name Donovan? Enjoyment often leads to indulgence. What is life without little indulgence, dear lord? But alas, you bankers are used to save money, not spending it. Brandon Rogers, Donovan. The female bops her glass in the direction of otherwise stoic and dignified male, when Portia returns from the gardens with a surprisingly large group of humans. And, oh, hello. First enters a bulky man in his 40s with long dark blonde hair and well-groomed beard. He's handsome in a harsh, brutal sort of way, many scars donning his perfectly sculpted body. He's attractive. Dangerously so, and I decide not to rest my gaze on him much longer. Instead, I focus on a youth entering behind him. It's a slender-looking blonde boy, almost my age, I think, perhaps in his late teens. His blue eyes immediately lock on me, and I try not to appear too intrusive. Finally, last to enter is an older gentleman in an elaborate leather coat and a fancy cap. He's not exactly in the winter of his life, but if I were to guess, I'd say he's halfway through his 60s at the very least. There they are! Welcome once again. Please be seated. The magistrate stands up and bids them to join us. The gardens are absolutely wonderful, Your Excellency. They match many finer a home in Tigron with their beauty. The older male speaks in a polite tone, yet somehow I can catch that he struggles with the language. Thank you, Master Dagalin. It means a lot coming from you. Dagalin here, for those unfamiliar with his name, is a historian. The magistrate announces to the rest of us. Currently under royal commission to the Sorcerer King himself, he's traveling with his fellow kin back to the capital. Weren't you the one present in Lion's Landing when the truce was signed? Indeed, your ladyship. Indeed, your ladyship. Dagalin nods, taking a seat opposite Rannoch. So, 6 months in Euron, then onto the other side of Avalon, and now back again. You run quite a tight schedule, my good sir. How's the crossing? I've heard it's half decent nowadays. It depends on the captain and his ship. I've traveled on a Flinian frigate. A fine vessel she was, still took us 3 weeks more than expected to cross. Why's that? The mage looks at the human with genuine curiosity, dunking his lips in wine. We've entered a still spot, not a gust of wind to be had for weeks. Dear me, so you ended up stranded. Or so, the currents were pushing us back towards Euron. But we were well provisioned, and it gave me time to work on my cabin. I see you're an industrious man. No other way to be. Both exchange cordial looks and bop their glass in mutual agreement. Doesn't life on the move become bothersome after a while? Not at all. Most kin are born and buried in their neck of the woods, never to see even a glimpse of the world beyond. I find myself extremely privileged to travel as much as I do. I can see by the corner of my eye that Rannoch's attention fixates on the elder and a smile appears on his muzzle. After all, travel is his dream. Well said. The handsome man agrees, much to my wolf's approval. Nothing like exploring the world a little before we fade into nothingness. Everyone, this is Jarl York of Nidros. The magistrate addresses us once again, introducing his other guest. His voice is brimming with joy, and the human bows gracefully. Jarl? I don't know anymore. He's the right hand to the High King Hilden of the Broken Isles. A hero of the battlefront and a personal friend of the Sorcerer King. Rarely such a distinguished guest graced my table. Please, please, with less pomp, I beg you. York holds up his hands in clear embarrassment. I'm just a soldier, that's all. My son wrote to me of your exploits with great admiration. I'd say you're selling yourself short, my friend. A warrior does what a warrior must. The rest is irrelevant. Again, Rannoch gives a silent nod of approval, and I can't help but admire the new arrival. Still, none of them look remotely familiar, and any pipe dream of them having an inkling into my past vanishes in a proverbial and very apt puff of smoke. Not that I expected otherwise. On a side note, I don't know why, but Mindfolk feels oddly alert to everything happening around the table. It's as if I wouldn't be able to switch off from the conversation, even if I'd try. Odd. Everything seems so sharp and clear. How long have you been a Jarl? Lady Wrist poses an idle question, but all I can do is stare at the kid seated in front of me. But a year, dear lady. And how do you find this new position? Challenging, but also rewarding. There's an undeniable satisfaction in seeing the fruits of one's labor, especially if they are enjoyed by the people one serves. Spoken like a true leader. I try to divert my eyes from the youth in front of me. For some reason, his bashful glances fluster me. The tiger noble, who so far sat comfortably in his chair, suddenly stands up. Anyway, now that we're all together, I want to extend sincere apologies to you, Your Excellency, on behalf of Tiberius. My brother has departed to the capital on an urgent business and therefore cannot be present. Oh, that's quite all right, dear friend. The magistrate waves his paw dismissively. I understand your enterprise is most demanding. Since he's been gone on such short notice, I assume there's trouble in the Imperial Treasury. Should we expect new taxes? I'm afraid I wouldn't know, but if the Sorcerer King is in need of coin, I'm sure Tiberius can alleviate his troubles without reaching into our pockets. Let's be willing. Last thing I need is more petitioners at my doorstep. Quite. Thank you, Caius. It's good to have your reassurance. In fact, on this note, I would have to make a request of you. Lord Rannoch entrusted quite a sum of gold with me, and I would need it liquefied. That shan't be a problem. I was given full control in Tiberius's absence. I can get funds ready first thing tomorrow. Perfect. The magistrate nods, looking to us with a determined gaze. You can trust Lord Grok. He's one of the most talented financiers in the realms. Not only he'll provide you with hard cash to spend, but he'll make sure your people's assets work for you, instead of being locked in a vault. You mean he'll invest it? I asked, drawing a surprised glare from the financier. Isn't that a bit risky? Risky Grokky never lost a coin if they could help it. The magistrate laughs. They are financial wizards. All they need to do is clap their paws and piles of money appear seemingly out of nowhere. Not exactly as simple as that, but your money will be safe with me. You have my word. Yes, Master Kalen, you can rely on him, my friend. Hang on, let me just... thought it was Kane. I give Rannoch a wearied look, but to my surprise, the wolf smiles towards the grokky tiger. I believe Treasure Lord, his father, make coin for my father in past. That's right. We still do have an account for Varrock. Now that you mention, I might need to pen him a letter before your departure, but please, no need to call me Lord. I'm merely a banker. Don't trust anything he says, dearie. False modesty. Through and through. Lady Wrist finally swishes her paw tauntingly, causing the financier to frown. No, really. Yours is one of the most powerful families in Avalon. You might not have landed titles, but your vaults eclipse those of many a kingdom. Landlords to the monarchies, I would call them. Bankers, not so much. She clicks her tongue impatiently, and I listen intently to their exchange. nibbling on various appetizers to distract myself from any potential drama. I enjoy some thin dried pork sausages which resemble broken twigs, but I think that stuffed olives grow on me the most, as they pair well with the wine and cheese. Please, no need to be so vulgar, Lady Wrist. I always find it amusing how those drowning in riches pretend to find the subject of money beneath them. I prefer dry honesty. You could have bought me, the magistrate, olive turn and half the continent on an auction if you willed it so. If only they were on sale. The male grumbles, sinking back into his seat. He clearly doesn't suffer this crude exchange well, but the wrist woman doesn't take the hint. Everything has a price, dear Caius. It's not always expressed in coin. The banker does not take the bait, and the tortured exchange comes to an end. I focus on the arrangement of dishes in front of me and quickly eye out a plate filled with honey-glazed buns. As I reach out, my hand accidentally bumps into that of the kid sitting in front of me. Sorry, go ahead. He mutters in an awkward voice of a startled youth at a family gathering, and I cannot help but smile. This was me just a few weeks ago. Seafin, it isn't just old cocks and soggy balls. You have finally met your peer. Wow. His father says in a bombastic voice, adding more mortification onto his features. A fine strapping lad, your son. They would make good friends. The magistrate throws in, bopping his head between us, and I almost mimic Finn's sinking into the chair. Two peas in a pod, as they say, the scholar adds in. Once we mingle, we should give them a chance to get to know each other. That was my intention. The magistrate smiles widely. After dinner, we'll have entertainment in the garden. What fun! Lady Wrist takes a satisfied sip of wine. I can hardly wait to make a few acquaintances tonight myself. As long as I'll get to command most of your time, dear lady. Oh, I wouldn't dream to neglect my host. They exchange a cordial chuckle while I return to my meal, locking embarrassed gaze with Finn one more time. He shrugs apologetically, as if any of this was his fault, and I just shake my head. From the get-go, this was a setup. The magistrate is fixed on finding a connection between me and Yorick's party. I also feel that we've been played in some way when it comes to the Royal Mage. I think the magistrate used us to undermine Kane's mission here in some shape or form. But I honestly don't care. Free meal and bed don't come cheap. I have to admit, the food seems much more sophisticated, despite the fact most of what they serve is readily available back at the village. Well, aside from saffron rolls. I don't know what saffron is, but tastes and sounds expensive. Pretty sure it is expensive. Wait, I'm pretty sure that's like a real thing and it's expensive as hell. Yeah, goddamn! I'm sorry. Wow. 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 Jesus fuck. Yeah, I was pretty sure it's a real thing. I just Googled it. I think it like depends on the gram, but like I'm looking at this. One listing says $130 US, another says $13 US. One says $1,526 US, and another says $57 US. So, a metric fuck ton of money. As an awkward silence protracts over the room, eventually the magistrate breaks it by addressing the fancy male on the other side of the table. Claudius, is anything the matter? Hope you didn't take our early teasing to heart. What? Oh, no, it's not that.
Saffron is just the male parts of a flower.
Then what is it, friend? You've barely spoken a word since that unfortunate exchange. Never mind him, your excellency. He's just grumpy because of some missing sheep. The way he keeps babbling on about them, one would think I was lodged at a farm. Sheep? The magistrate blinks while the handsome human looks around the table with a clear hunger in his eyes. I would love some mutton. Do we have any? I'll make sure that we do. Our host states sternly, looking towards the dough. Portia, go to the kitchen and order them to prepare a lamb. We'll feed our guests well tonight. Right away, your excellency. Hold up. I'm gonna try something. Hang on. Hey Siri, say, right away, your excellency.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Ah, fuck you, Siri. Damn it. Hold up, I have a better idea. Let me grab it. Okay. Alexa, say, right away, Your Excellency.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Ah, fuck you. Damn it! Well, I'm out of ideas. Right away, Your Excellency. Both of them are useless! The doe bops again and she's gone behind one of the side doors. Although reminiscent of the bunnies at the feast, their relationship seems to be built on respect. What a gracious host you are, Your Excellency. Technology hates me once again. Well, I can't have you travel all the way to the king, complain at your poor reception here now, can I? Speaking of reception, I can't help but notice that it's getting grander and grander. Now our company grew significantly while we took the air. Perhaps an introduction would be in order. Indeed. The magistrate nods, looking towards us and extending his paw. This is Lord Rannoch of Turnen. He has come in a diplomatic character. While Lord Kane here, if you'd believe it, is a much less welcome sight than the wolf. Oh? How so? He's here to oversee our dear magistrate because the king thinks he's being very naughty when no one's looking. Lady Wrist purrs teasingly, much to the Jarl's amusement. Pilfered the imperial coffers, eh? Of course not. The magistrate scoffs, causing the human to flash his brows. Well, even if you did, I'd say it's a mighty overreaction. It's not like Tygon's penniless. Are you suggesting that corruption should be overlooked just because a purse is big enough to bear it? Dear me, the sheer impertinence. Excuse me? You shan't be excused. You are accusing our host of lining up his pockets at his very own dinner table. Had this been a century past, you'd be whipped through the streets. Lady Wrist pipes in between shallow sips of her wine, causing the mage to wince. It's not like that. How else would you put it? I'm merely here to... What about the young lad? The Jarl cuts the argument off, looking at me with clear curiosity. I nearly blush. I haven't heard much about him yet. Even his intensive stare feels as if he's undressing me with his eyes. Bussy tight, bussy clean, bussy fresh. Wait, what? I'm just that pent up. God only knows. We're gonna stop a bit for the ad. Want to break from the ads? Just goddamn. God damn, Kalen. Just like, God damn, Kalen. He's in Lord Rannoch's service, paying a debt for a life saved. How interesting and noble. A debt is a debt, true men respect that. Well, I've always said that paying one's dues is a mark of a principled character. An unsurprising stance for a banker. Again, Lady Wrist pitches in, but the Jarl ignores her. And yet I couldn't agree more. Rules are there to be abided. Only people of weak character try to weasel their way out of an obligation. I would love to hear the details of the story. I not much say. Human hurt, I help. Now he helps me. Rannoch speaks up, looking at me with worry, and I give him an encouraging smile. His speech, although received well by most, seems to have amused Lady Wrist, who chuckles softly. How quaint. He does try, bless him. Tigery is not the easiest of tongues. I should know. Took me a few decades to master it. The Jarl comes to my wolf's defense. And you speak a beautiful darling. One can hardly discern you from a faraway backwater. You do me kindness, your ladyship. Polite, even in the face of veiled insults. What's with the voice? I don't know. Even I noticed she didn't use his honorary title. He's quite the man. You should hear Master Kalen speak. The magistrate diverts the attention to me and I shudder. He wields it as if he was born to it. Well, now I must hear that. Her comment sounds more challenging than anything. Come on now, speak up, lad. I do not know what to say other than I'm extremely grateful for being in such an exalted company. My word, it's as if I heard a tiger speak. The older man gasps, looking to me with now familiar astonishment. Even the Jarl is taken aback. Impressive. And uncanny. Lady Wrist, however, seems not so amused, and I decide to preempt any further comments by showcasing my alertness to the conversations around me. I'll take it as a compliment, my lady. Is the Mog Bay far? This takes the female by surprise, but she forces a prompt reply. 300 miles, for... I don't know, darling. It's awful far, and we've been stopping every few days. I've departed shortly after the equinox. I assume she meant the autumn one, which would mean late September. So, 5 months on the road. Oh no, I wintered in the capital. She laughs it off awkwardly. But the rest of that time I've been cramped in the coach. That's as much as I can tell you, boy. That's awfully far. I muster some awe into my words, which seems to flatter the female. It is, but I haven't walked the distance, which is something I expect you did. Sitting comfortably in the coach is hardly something worth bragging about. You and the Count must be awfully close for you to waste so much time and energy to get to his daughter's enlightenment. I'm actually, curious about something. To anyone who knows, are we able to split this into multiple streams? For anyone who knows. Okay, I'm gonna find a stopping point real quick. Because I don't know. Lord Grocky pitches in, quickly souring the mood. I wouldn't know, dear lord. I'm not a banker. I don't quantify my relations through profits made. I just do what needs to be done, what's socially expected of me, and I can reasonably bear. Literally any time, but preferably before, like, 11:15. I don't know. She quips quite sharply, but quickly redirects her attention back to me. I applaud your manners, boy. I really do. Those are oft the hardest to master. But please let us correct addresses. I'm not your lady. You don't owe any allegiance to me. I'm sorry? I look true confused in the female sighs. It's all quite easy. When referring to me, simply say, your ladyship, and we'll have a much better time of it. I'm afraid I'm still confused. He is your lord. You owe allegiance to him. She bops her head towards Rannoch. Okay. I'm just a lady of a faraway realm you have no connection to. I'm not your lady. I'm her ladyship. Do you understand? I nod reluctantly. I'm still not sure why it's so important other than to put me in my place, but thankfully Lord Mayor saves me the hassle of responding. What does it matter? Why are we wasting time on linguistics? Quite right. It's a feast, not a court hearing. His wife giggles, hushing the mayor down. Indeed. Seeing this, Lady Wrist nods, placing a thin slice of some pastry onto her plate. This is marvelous. Bravo to the cook. She moans in almost obscene satisfaction after taking a forkful, drawing attention to the gathered. I can't remember the last time I had such a masterful phyllo. I must agree. Perfect ratio of pastry and filling. Very moist. I'm glad you're enjoying it. The magistrate nods with pride, and I look around with genuine curiosity. What is it that you're having? I ask him before I manage to finish my sentence. Lady Wrist is already cutting a slice of a large rounded pastry and placing it on a small plate, passing it to me. Here, have a piece. It's a spinach and goat cheese pie. It's utterly divine! She faces Portia with a gentle expression. Girl! Blackberry Mary wine. Which would go best with it? The doe clearly feels put on a spot and fidgets nervously. None, your ladyship. I'd say ouzo would be the most appropriate of pairings. Atta girl! The magistrate laughs, clapping his hands with joy, and the servant smiles. Lady Wrist, on the other hand, smacks her forehead and rolls her eyes. Of course, ouzo. Why didn't I think of that? Fetch him a glass, will you? Yes, ma'am. Within moments, the doe veers around the table and approaches me with a medium glass filled with milky substance. It has quite an herbal smell to it, I comment, inspecting the drink. That's because it's made of herbs. Aniseed, angelica, and coriander, among others. The magistrate explains, and I nod to him in gratitude. I'm quite surprised the drink is chilled. Perhaps a neat ice magic trick? I take a sizable sip and grimace slightly. It has a flavor of medicine or an old people's candy. It's meant to be sipped, child, between the bites of food. Makes both go down better. I bow my head toward understanding and proceed to do as told. The pie is flaky and the crust crumbles in my mouth, while the moist, creamy filling makes me feel giddy all over. I don't think I was ever a fan of spinach, mainly because I'm quite surprised that I enjoy it in this combination. The sip of ouzo just enriches all the flavors, and I have to concede, this is an excellent pairing. Please give my compliments to the cook. Everything I've tried so far was a massive triumph. Lady Wrist still revels in her pie, looking to Portia with a gentle smile. Just downplay it a bit, otherwise he'll ask me for another raise. The magistrate jests and we all laugh. But the enjoyment doesn't last long as Lord Mayor, exasperated by our apparent carefree attitude, finally breaks his vow of silence. He pats his paw against the table and looks to the magistrate challengingly. We're gonna leave off here tonight. Yep. Well, stay safe, have a good night, and I will see you all tomorrow.